guys, and welcome back to the Crochet Tour YouTube channel. In today's video I'm bringing you another new crochet tutorial, and this time it's going to be for Puppycat from Bee and Puppycat. So here he is. This wasn't a request at all, it's just that I've been watching the series on Netflix and I just thought I'd quite like to crochet Puppycat, so yeah, here he is. And without further ado, if you're interested in finding out how to make him, then do keep watching. For this tutorial you'll be needing aran weight yarn in the following colours. White, you'll definitely need the most of this. You'll need about a 100-gram ball just to be on the safe side. I don't think I quite used up the full ball for this, but again, just to be on the safe side, it's probably good to have a lot of your white colour. And then you'll need smaller amounts of brown, pink and yellow. Then you'll be needing your crochet hook. I've got a 4mm crochet hook to go with my aran weight yarn, but if you're using a heavier or lighter weight of yarn, just make sure that you adjust your hook size accordingly. Then I've got my stitch marker here. This is just an offcut of yarn. This is what I'm going to use to track the beginning of each round. I've got my yarn needle. This is just for sewing things together. I've then got my safety eyes. So here I've got some black circular 12mm safety eyes here, so slightly bigger ones than I normally use, but you can obviously use whatever you want. You can embroider the eyes or use felt if that's what you prefer. Then I've got some pins that will help me when I'm sewing things together. Then I've got some black embroidery thread. This is for adding the nose and mouth details. You can obviously use black yarn for this if you want, but it's going to make the lines a bit thicker. Then I've got some stuffing. You're going to need a lot more than this, but this is just to demonstrate. And then I've got my scissors as well. We're going to crochet the head to start off with, so you're going to want your white yarn for this. So for round one, we're going to start by doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. So that's round one, and then for round two we're going to increase all the way around, so that means doing 2 single crochets in each stitch, and that will get us up to 12 at the end of round 2. Okay, so that's the end of round 2, and I've got my 12 single crochets. Now for round 3, we're going to start off by doing a single crochet, and then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around, so we should need to do that 5 more times, and that will get us up to 18 single crochets. Okay, so that's the end of round 3, and I've got 18 single crochets. I'm going to talk you through the next few rounds, as it's just standard increases of 6 in each round, and then a few rounds of single crocheting all the way around. So for round 4 you're going to do 2 single crochet increase and repeat that 5 more times to get you up to 24. Round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 30. Round 6, 4 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 36. Round 7, 5 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 42. Round 8, 6 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 48. Round 9, 7 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 54. Then rounds 10 to 19, so 10 rounds in total, single crochet all the way around, so 54 single crochets per round. I'll meet you when you're about to start round 20, as that's when we'll start doing some decreases, so I'll show you how to do that. So I've just reached the end of round 19, I'm about to start round 20 now. So this is what the head is looking like at the moment. So as I mentioned previously, we are going to be starting to do decreases in round 20 onwards, so I'll show you how to do that now. So we're going to start off by doing just 7 single crochets. And I am using my stitch marker at this point to just help me know where the start of the round is. Okay, so after you've done your 7 single crochets, we're then going to do a decrease. There's 2 different ways that you can do this. So the first one is the sort of standard decrease method. So in this one, you're going to start off like you're doing a normal single crochet, pull through a loop like that, but instead of yarning over and pulling through both loops on your hook, go into the next stitch, pull up another loop, then yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's a standard decrease. Or you can do an invisible decrease, which is what I'm going to be doing in this tutorial. So in this one, you're going to go into the front loop only of the next stitch, and you're not going to do anything other than then go into the front loop only of the next stitch. Then you're going to pull 1 loop through both of those front loops, and then yarn over and pull through the loops on your hook like this. And this one is just a little bit less visible, and that's why it's called an invisible decrease. So I'll show you that again. So I'm going to do 7 single crochets, and then a decrease. And again, I'm going to be doing invisible decreases consistently, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around, so 7 single crochet decrease, and that should get you down to 48 at the end of round 20, so I'll meet you at that point. So I've just completed round 20, and this is what the head is looking like now. I'm going to talk you through the next few rounds because it's all just going to be decreases in increments of 6 from now on. So hopefully if you've been able to do round 20, you should be okay with these other rounds. So for round 21, you're going to do 6 single crochet decrease and repeat that 5 more times to get you down to 42 single crochets. Round 22, 5 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 36. Round 23, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 30. Then round 24, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 24. At that point, we're going to then just cut our yarn, and then our head is going to be ready for sewing onto the body when we've completed that. So I'll meet you at the end of round 24 and show you what to do next. I've just finished round 24, and this is what it looks like now, so hopefully you can see that the head has actually become a head by now. So now we can just cut our yarn, leaving a tail for sewing, quite a long tail probably, just to be on the safe side. Okay, and that is the head complete for now. Just to also mention that I'm not going to be stuffing the head at this point or adding the eyes. I'm personally going to start sewing the head to the body first, and then before I finished sewing all the way around, I'll then add the eyes and the stuffing at that point. That's just so that I can make sure that I can see where the head is going to sit on the body, so that I can put everything in the right place. I can make sure that the eyes aren't sort of off center at all or anything like that. But obviously if you feel confident in your sewing abilities and that you'll be able to sew the head like sort of the correct way onto the body, then feel free to add the eyes and the stuffing to the head at this point if you would prefer to do it that way round. But yeah, I'll show you the process of adding the eyes and the stuffing to the head later on in the video once we've crocheted the body and then we're sewing the head onto the body. So in order to crochet the body, we're going to start off by crocheting the 2 legs, and then we're going to join them together in a later round and then work our way up to create the body. So let's start off by crocheting those legs. You're going to need to start with your brown yarn for this. So for round 1, we're going to do 5 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2 we're going to increase all the way around, and that will get us up to 10 single crochets. Okay, so at the end of round 2 I've got my 10 single crochets. Just going to talk you through the next couple of rounds now. So for round 3 you're going to do single crochet increase and repeat that 4 more times to get you up to 15 single crochets. Then round 4, 2 single crochet increase, repeat 4 more times to get you up to 20. I'll meet you when you're about to start round 5. So I'm just about to start round 5, and in this round we're going to be single crocheting all the way around, but in the back loop only, and that's going to help to keep the bottom of the foot more flat than if we were to just crochet in both of the loops. So the back loop is the one that's furthest away from you, so this one, and we're just going to be single crocheting just in that loop, so that should be 20 single crochets in total. Okay, so that's round 5 complete, and hopefully you can see what I mean now. So if you kind of flatten the bottom of the foot, you can see that it stays flat now, and we're now just sort of building up to create the appearance of the leg. Now for round 6 to 7 you're going to single crochet all the way around, but in both loops as normal this time, so just reverting back to standard single crochets like this. So you're going to do 2 rounds of that. I'll meet you when you're about to do your final single crochet of round 7, because we're then going to be changing to white, so I'll show you how to do the colour change. Just about to do my final single crochet of round 7, and as I mentioned we are going to be changing to white now. So we're going to start this like normal, but instead of yarning over in brown and pulling through both loops on the hook, we need to grab our white yarn at this point and pull through in this colour instead. And then we're now ready to crochet around in white rather than brown. So what we're going to be doing is rounds 8 to 10, so 3 rounds in total of just single crocheting all the way around in white. And I would normally crochet over both tails, the white and the brown, for a few stitches, maybe 2 or 3. Something like that. Just pull on those tails to make sure that you don't have any loose stitches. And then you can continue crocheting around, ignoring those tails, and you can cut both of them if you want. Particularly you'll want to cut the brown one so that you can get that out of the way, but you can also cut the little bit of white tail left as well if you want to get that out of the way too. So yeah, I'm just going to do rounds 8 to 10 of single crocheting all the way around in white, and I'll meet you at the end of round 10 and show you what to do. So I got to the end of round 10 and I've just cut my yarn, leaving a very small tail. You don't really need to leave much at all here. It's just for the purposes of making sure that this doesn't unravel. So what I'm going to be doing is when I'm crocheting the 2 legs together, I'm going to crochet over this tail to kind of secure it in place. But if you'd prefer, you can start knotting this tail on the inside of the leg at this point if you'd rather do it that way round. It's completely up to your preference. But yeah, this is going to be the first leg. So now what you need to do is just repeat rounds 1 to 10 all over again, so everything that we've just done for this leg here. But for the second leg, keep the yarn on the hook, do not cut the yarn, because we are going to be in round 11 joining these 2 legs together. So I'll meet you when you've got to that point. I've got my two legs now, my one where I've cut the yarn and my other one where I've still got the yarn on the hook. So let's start round 11 and join these two legs together. So we're going to start off by doing 12 single crochets in the leg that's currently on our hook, and you're definitely going to want to use your stitch marker here because it's really easy to lose track of the beginning of this round. So make sure that you mark that first stitch. So 12 single crochets. Okay, so that's our 12 single crochets. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 5 because we want there to be a bit of a space between the two legs. We don't want them right next to each other. Then we're going to work 20 single crochets around the other leg, and whenever I'm joining the legs together I tend to start in a stitch that's a few stitches away from the final one, so maybe this one for example, because that gives me a chance to crochet over the tail for a couple of stitches on that leg. So it doesn't really matter though where you start, you can start in any stitch and it will work fine. So that's one, we're going to do 20. So as you can see, I was crocheting over that tail there as well, and I may potentially crochet over that for a bit longer, but that's the 20 single crochets that we've done on the other leg. So now we're going to do 5 single crochets along this chain that we have here, and I personally prefer to work in these little like back bumps that you can see on the chain, so that's what I'm going to be doing. But again, it doesn't really matter what loops you work into on the chain, as long as you're working along the chain, then that's absolutely fine. So 5 single crochets here. Okay, and then the final thing for this round is to do 8 single crochets back into this leg, and if you're not sure where to start, just count back from the stitch mark at 8, so not including the marked stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the correct stitch to start working in. Okay, so that is round 11 complete, and this is what it looks like at this point. So you've got your two legs now joined together, you've got that little 5 single crochet gap in the middle, and you should have 50 stitches in total, including the chain 5 that you did. So we're counting the chain 5 as 5 stitches, and then the 5 single crochets on the other side as another 5, and then you've got 20 on each leg. Now we're going to do quite a lot of rounds of just single crocheting all the way around, so that'll be rounds 12 to 22. I am going to do round 12 with you now just to show you what that looks like, because obviously it's a bit different with it being the first time that we're going to have to crochet over the chain that we did earlier. And I would definitely recommend that for round 12 you definitely count your stitches to make sure you've got 50, because again it's very easy to accidentally miss something in this sort of chain 5 space that we have between the legs, or to do extra single crochets without realizing. But once you've done round 12 it's much more simple to know which stitches to work into. So let's just do round 12 together now. So there should be 50 single crochets in this round. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. That was 40, so last 10 stitches. Okay, so that is round 12 complete. I was keeping count in my head there, so that was definitely 50 single crochets. So I definitely haven't accidentally dropped or added in any extra stitches. And like I say, it should be much easier now from round 13 onwards. There's less ambiguity in terms of which stitches you should and shouldn't be working into. So, so for rounds 13 to 22, just continue single crocheting all the way around, and I'll meet you in round 23 as we're then going to start doing some decreases. So I'm just about to start round 23 now, and this is what the body is looking like. So you can see it's really coming together. But yeah, we've still got a few more rounds to go, and we're going to be doing some sort of sporadic decreases in some of these rounds. So I'll do one of the decrease rounds with you now just to show you. I know we already did some decreases for the head, but just to refresh your memory in case you need some help. So for round 23, we're going to start off by doing 3 single crochets. Then we're going to do a decrease, so I'm going to do an invisible decrease again. Then you're going to do 23 single crochets. Okay, then you're going to do another decrease. And then 20 single crochets to finish the round. Okay, so at the end of round 23 you should have 48 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds for the body now, because there's no stitches in there that are new. So for round 24 you're going to single crochet all the way around, so that'll be 48 single crochets. Round 25, 6 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you down to 42 single crochets. Round 26, single crochet all the way around. Round 27, 5 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 36. Round 28, single crochet all the way around. Round 29, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 30. Round 30, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 24. Then rounds 31 to 32, single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you at the end of round 32, as we'll then be fastening off the body, and then we're going to need to sew the head to the body. I've just completed round 32, so that's the final round for the body. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail, which we're just going to fasten off on the inside of the body, as we've already got the long tail from the head for sewing, so we don't need this one anymore. You can do a few more knots if you want, but that should be sufficient. And then now what you're going to want to do before we start sewing the head is you do want to stuff the body at this point, so I would just start adding a little bit of stuffing into each of the legs at the bottom. And then you can just stuff the rest of the body firmly. I've stuffed the body now, as you can see, and I'm going to start sewing the head to the body now. And as I mentioned previously, I'm only going to stuff the head once I'm maybe half or 3/4 of the way done with sewing that. So I've got my yarn needle here. I'm just going to start lining the head up with the body. It should be fairly straightforward to sew this round, because we should have 24 single crochets left on both parts. So it's just a case of, like I say, lining up your work and just whip stitching all the way around like this. So yeah, when I'm about half to 3/4 of the way done, I will show you how I'm going to add the eyes and stuff the head at that point. Also, just another thing to note is that there will be a collar that's going to go around between the head and the body, so if your sewing isn't that neat, don't worry about it, because it is going to be hidden by the collar that we're going to add later on. So I've still got a bit left to go in terms of sewing, but at this point I'm going to work out where my eyes are going to go. So I am going to add some stuffing at this point, just so that I can see what the head is going to look like when it is stuffed. So like that. And then I'm going to figure out where my eyes need to go based off of the positioning of the head, like this. So the eyes, we want them to go roughly between rounds 14 and 15 and 6 single crochets apart. So I'm just going to count down from the top of the head to get to that point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry. Let me try that again from this angle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. So somewhere like this is where the eyes should go, and then they need to be roughly 6 single crochets apart. So I'm just going to figure out where the best place will be for that. Just sort of moving the stuffing out the way so that I can push that eye in. And then counting 6 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about here for the other one. So I think that is roughly the correct positioning for this. I'm just having a look and just making sure that that does seem to be central. But I think it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the backs on. And of course you can always add the eyes once you've actually finished doing all of the sewing and do it at a later stage, but you would probably need to use some glue at that point. So that's the eyes. So now I'm just going to fully stuff the head and then finish sewing all the way around, and I'll meet you when I've done that. I've finished sewing the head all the way around now, so this is what it looks like. I know it looks a bit funny at the moment, but once we've added all the other details it will start to come together. So I'm just going to weave the yarn tail through the back of the body, and you can do that a few times if you want for extra stability. And then I'm just going to cut that as we don't need that tail anymore. And then the next thing that I am just going to do at this stage to get it out of the way is I'm going to add the nose and the mouth details now with some black embroidery thread. I've got my black embroidery thread and I'm going to add the nose and mouth detail now. So you want to kind of go between the eyes. Do a couple of lines for the nose. And then a couple of lines for the mouth, which you want to kind of look like it's in a bit of an angry shape. So something like that, and then you can just adjust it however you need to. I possibly might go in and add an extra line to the nose there because it looks like you can kind of see that gap a little bit, but this is the basic shape that you want, and then you can just cut your yarn whenever you're happy with this. The final part of the face details is the eyebrows, so we're going to crochet those next. I've got one here as an example of what it's going to look like. So this is a fairly quick one to do. It's just one round, but it does involve crocheting around a foundation chain, so I am going to do this one with you. So we're going to start in our brown yarn by doing a chain of 5. And then we're going to start working down the chain. So starting from the second chain from hook, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and then an increase. I like to work into these back bumps, so that's what I'm going to do, but you can work into these front loops if you would prefer, if that feels more comfortable. So I'm just doing my increase here. And then we're going to work round the other side of the foundation chain and do the exact same thing again. So 3 single crochets and then an increase, and just make sure that you're working over that tail so that you can keep that secured in place. And now I'm just doing my final increase. Okay, so that's it. You can now cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. And then you can also cut this tail at the back. Just make sure you pull on this gently before you cut, so that you can make sure that the piece is flat and that this isn't causing any bumps at all. And then the final thing that I would like to do on this, just to make it a bit neater, because obviously as you can see there's a bit of a gap here between where we started and finished the round, and you can just do a slip stitch if you want to finish this off more simply, but for me I like to do a fake single crochet. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my work round, I'm going to go into that first single crochet that we did, pull through this yarn tail, and then go back to that final stitch that we did and go into the loop that's closest to us currently and just pull that yarn tail through there. And what you can see is that's created this additional fake single crochet, so it almost looks like there's 11 single crochets in the round now, but there's actually only 10, but we've just created this fake one here, and that just makes it look a lot neater when you're sewing this down. It's a lot harder to tell where the round started and ended, so I've done that on both of these eyebrows. So once you've got 2 of these, come back and I'll show you how to sew them to the head. I've already sewn down one of the eyebrows and I'm going to start doing the other one with you now. So you just want to pin it above the eye like this, and then I'm just going to be whip stitching all the way around to sew this down. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around. Okay, so I finished sewing all the way around. Now I'm just going to weave that yarn tail through the eyebrow. And then cut that. So now we're going to move on to crocheting the ears. So you're going to need your brown and pink yarn for this. So this is an example of what the ear is going to look like. I've gone ahead and crocheted one, but obviously we're going to need 2 of these. As you can see, there's a lot of colour changing that's going to be done in this, but if you're struggling with that, you can always just do the whole ear in your brown colour, and then you can embroider some pink detail on the inside of the ear like this, just using a yarn needle and some pink yarn. But like I say, I'm going to show you how to do the method with the colour changing incorporated, so that you don't have to do that. It's just already added in as we're crocheting around. So for round 1, we're going to start off with our brown yarn, and we're going to do 3 single crochets in a magic circle. So that's round 1. Then for round 2, we're going to increase all the way around, but we're going to do the first increase in brown, second increase in pink, and then the third increase back in brown again. So we're going to need to colour change twice in this round. So I'm going to start off doing my first brown increase. So that's 1 single crochet, and then for the second single crochet, we're going to need to pull through in pink. Then we're going to do our increase in pink. This is probably going to be the fiddliest round, so if you get past this one it gets easier. So that's that. Then I'm going to do yarning over in brown and pulling through. And then we can do our final increase in brown. Okay, so that's round 2 complete. You should have 6 single crochets. You should have 2 in brown, 2 in pink, and then 2 in brown again. So for round 3 we're going to do single crochet increase all the way around, but again we're going to be splitting that into some brown, pink and brown stitches. So we're going to do our first single crochet increase in brown, our second in pink, and then our third in brown again. So I am going to cut these 2 yarn tails at this point just to get them out of the way. But in terms of the other tails, as we're changing colour, I'm not going to be cutting any yarn tails. I am just going to continue carrying around the pink and the brown yarn tails, considering that we are going to have to doing colour changing in every single round. So I'm going to start off by doing my single crochet increase in brown. And you can either carry the pink round like this, or you can just keep it on the inside of your work and then pick it up again when you need it. It's up to you how you want to do that. So now I need to be changing to pink. Then I'm going to do a single crochet and then an increase. And then I need to be changing to brown. And then I'm going to do a single crochet and an increase. So at the end of round 3 you should have 9 single crochets, 3 brown, 3 pink, and then 3 brown again. I'm going to talk you through the remaining rounds for the ear now, because the idea is pretty much the same in every single round. So for round 4 you're going to do 2 single crochet increase all the way around, but the first 2 single crochet increase is going to be in brown, the second is going to be in pink, and then the third is going to be in brown again. Round 5 you're just going to be single crocheting all the way around, but the first 4 single crochets are in brown, the second 4 are in pink, and the third 4 are in brown. Then for round 6 you're going to do 3 single crochet increase all the way around, but the first 3 single crochet increase is going to be brown, the second pink, and then the third brown again. I'll meet you at the end of round 6 and show you what to do, but I would suggest that don't cut your pink yarn so that it's very short. When you get to the end of round 6 you're going to want to cut both yarn tails, leaving a tail for sewing, because we're going to want to use the brown yarn tail for sewing down the brown part of the ear and then the pink for sewing down the pink part, but I will show you what I do at the end of round 6 anyway. Okay, so I've got to the end of round 6 and this is what it's looking like. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to cut my yarn tails, leaving a tail for both brown and pink, because I need to sew the pink stitches down using the pink, otherwise it's going to look a little bit funny. So yeah, this is what it looks like now with these 2 tails. So you're going to want to make 2 of these ears and come back when you've got these and I'll show you how to sew them to the top of the head. So I've sewn down one of the ears and I'm going to do the other one with you now. I've just pinned it in place, so you want the ears to be roughly about 3 rounds apart, but it doesn't need to be exact, just place them wherever you think looks most natural. You can always use a picture of Puppycat to guide you. And I'm going to start off by sewing down the pink stitches. Again, you don't have to do it this way, but that's just the way that I'm choosing to do it. So if you just go and do some whip stitches on the pink stitches, it shouldn't take too long because there's not that many of them. So just going along like that. Okay, and then when you get to the end there, you can just let go of that pink tail for now, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sew down some of the brown stitches, but before we finish all the way sewing, we're going to add some stuffing. So for sewing down the brown stitches, I'm just going to sew around like this for now, and I'm going to leave these few stitches unsewn because that's where I'm going to add my stuffing in a second. So I'm just going to whip stitch around. Just always checking the positioning to make sure it looks okay. I'm going to just remove that pin as well because it's in the way now. Just having a look and making sure that all looks okay, which I think it does. I'm going to remove the other pin at this point, and I'm going to add a bit of stuffing. It doesn't need to be a lot, to be honest, because as you can see the ear is kind of standing up by itself anyway, so just add a little bit, and you can add a bit more if you feel like you need to. But I think that's probably going to be enough, to be honest. So now we just need to finish sewing those stitches that we left on the other side. So I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through over to here. Sorry, I hope this hasn't been too funny of a camera angle. It's a bit difficult for me to film this part because of the size of Puppycat. It's kind of hard for me to hold this at a good angle, but I'm basically just going to sew down those final stitches now where I left them unsewn. So it should just be a few whip stitches required for this. Okay, and then when you're done and you're happy with what you've done, you can just weave that yarn tail either through the head or you could weave it through the ear. It's up to you. And you want to do the same with the pink as well. Like that. And then you can just cut those. And then push the tails inside the head, and you should have something that looks like this when the ears are sewn down. So now we're going to move on to making the collar. I've got my pink yarn again for the collar, so we're going to be working in rows to do this. We're going to start off by chaining 31. Okay, so that's a chain of 31. Then starting from the second chain from hook, we're just going to single crochet down the chain, which should be 30 single crochets, and I'm going to work in the back bumps like I did earlier. So I'm just going to do 30 single crochets down the chain, and I'll meet you when I'm nearly finished, as otherwise this will be quite a long clip. I've got 4 more single crochets to go, and I just wanted to show you this because I'm going to crochet over this little bit of yarn tail at this point, just to secure that and get it out of the way. And you can just pull on that yarn tail to get rid of that bit at the end, and then you can cut that also at this point. Okay, so that's row 1 complete, where you should have 30 single crochets. Now for row 2, you're going to chain 1, turn, and just single crochet across again, so that's going to be 30 single crochets in this round, or sorry, in this row. And then for row 3, you're going to chain 1, turn, and you're going to do 30 slip stitches down the row. So I'll meet you at the end of row 3. So I've reached the end of row 3 and this is what the collar's looking like. I'm going to cut my yarn now, leaving a little bit of a tail for sewing. It doesn't have to be very long because there's not much sewing to be done here. And then I am going to sew the collar to Puppycat right now. So what you're going to want to do is just decide which way round you want it to sit. You could either have the slip stitched row at the top or you could have it at the bottom. I like the way it looks better with that row at the bottom, so that's how I'm going to position it, but it's completely up to you how you do it. And then just bring your Puppycat and wrap the collar around like this. And then I think it's a better idea to do the sewing at the front because we are going to be crocheting a bell that we're going to put over the top of this seam. So even if the seam is messy, we can actually cover this up quite nicely with the bell that we're going to be adding. So I think it's better to do it this way than hiding the seam at the back, because it's then going to be visible even though it's going to be at the back. But it's up to you how you want to do this. And what you're going to do is just closing up this collar. So again, I'm whip stitching because that's generally my preference, but you can do whichever sewing stitch you like. And then it's completely up to you. If you want, you can also sew a few stitches down so that the collar doesn't move. So just sewing some of the pink stitches to the body. But you can leave it because this should be like tight enough that it shouldn't be sliding round too much. But I might just do a few, maybe 3 stitches sewing that down. Like that. And like I say, don't worry if that's messy because it's going to get covered up shortly. And then you can just weave your yarn tail through a little bit and then cut that. Okay, so now let's make the bell in our yellow colour that's going to go over the top of that seam. The bell is very straightforward. It's just 2 rounds that we're going to do here in yellow. So we're going to start off by doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2, we're just going to increase all the way around, and that's going to get us up to 12. Okay, so that's the end of round 2. I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. Again, you don't need much at all. I'm going to cut this little bit of the short tail at the back here. And then I am going to finish off with a fake single crochet again. This time I'm going to do the fake single crochet over the top of an existing one. So I'm going to turn my work again. I'm going to skip this next stitch, go into the one after, pull my yarn tail through. Then go back to that final single crochet of round 2 into the closest loop to us currently and pull through that yarn tail again, and that just neatens up this sort of circular shape that we have going on here. And then I am just going to weave this yarn tail a little bit further down so that we can start sewing more towards the middle of the bell at the back. So just a little bit further down like that. And now we're ready to sew this to the collar. So now I'm just going to be sewing my bell to the collar. It doesn't need to be particularly neat because we're just going to be sewing the back of this, so this shouldn't be visible at all. And it just needs to be enough stitches sewn down so that it stays in place really. trying to puff that stitch up a little bit more. Okay, I think that's sufficient. You can do as many stitches as you feel is necessary depending on what you're going to be doing with this item, but I'm just going to be displaying it, so that's enough, I think, to keep that in place. And then I'm just going to cut my yarn tail, push that in, and there we have it. So that's the collar completed. So now the next thing we're going to do is crochet the arms. I've gone ahead and made one of the arms. This is what it looks like. Let's start the other one together. So you're going to start off with your brown yarn. For round 1 you're going to do 5 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2 you're going to increase all the way around, which is going to get you up to 10 single crochets. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have 10 single crochets. Just going to talk you through the remaining brown rounds now. So for round 3 you're going to do single crochet increase and repeat 4 more times to get you up to 15 single crochets. Then rounds 4 to 7, so 4 rounds in total, you're just going to single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you when you're doing your final stitch of round 7, as we're going to change to white. So I'm just about to complete round 7 and I'm going to do my final single crochet, changing colour to white as I mentioned previously. Just doing this exactly the same way as I have done for all other colour changes in this tutorial. And now we're ready to use our white yarn for round 8. So for round 8 we're just going to be single crocheting all the way around, and in fact that's what we're going to be doing for rounds 8 to 14, just single crocheting all the way around in white. I'll meet you when you finish round 14, as there is a few more single crochets that we need to do at that point to create the appearance of a sort of shoulder effect for the arm, and then I will show you how to sew the arms to the body. Okay, so I finished round 14 and now I'm going to create that shoulder effect. So I'm going to turn my work and just do 7 single crochets working backwards. Then once you've done that, just cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing, and then pull that yarn tail through like this. So once you've got 2 arms like this, come back and I'll show you how to sew them to the body. I've sewn down one of the arms, I'm going to do the other one with you now. I've added a bit of stuffing, so I'd say add light to moderate stuffing to the arm. Then you're just going to want to position it, trying to make sure that the arm is just below where the collar is. And then you're just going to whip stitch all the way along the arm. Just trying to make sure that the positioning is good before I carry on. Okay, so once you've whip stitched along the top of the arm like that, it's up to you. You can sew all the way around if you want, so you can sew this bottom part down, but I'm just going to be sewing a few stitches at the back and the front of the arm, and that's going to do me, because like I say, this is just going to be displayed, so I don't need to be as careful to make sure that everything is fully sewn down and won't come apart. And I just think that the arms sit a bit flatter to the body if you do it like this. So that's the back. Then I'm just gonna weave my yarn tail back to where we started, and then sew down some of these stitches at the front. And then I'm just going to weave my yarn tail to the back, and then I can cut that. So that is the two arms sewn down. So the final thing we need to do is crochet and sew on the tail. I've gone ahead and made this because it's very straightforward, so I'll just talk you through the rounds for this. So for round 1, you're going to do 6 single crochets in a magic circle in your brown yarn. Rounds 2 to 3, single crochet all the way around. Then you're going to change to white, and for rounds 4 to 8, you're going to single crochet all the way around in white. Then you're going to cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing, and you don't need to add any stuffing to this. And once you've done that, come back and I'll show you how to sew this to the back of the body. So I've got my yarn needle and I've got the tail here, and I'm just going to be sewing this to the back of the body, just whip stitching around the tail. Okay, and then once you've finished sewing, you can just weave your yarn tail through the body and then cut that. And then that is Puppycat complete, so I'll show you a finished view, and then that'll be the end of this video. So this is what the finished Puppycat looks like, and from the back. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.